And you know the other thing that really pisses me off about this? Well, there's lots of things that piss me off about this, but this is a recurring thing, and you're going to see it. You're seeing it now with her confirmation hearings. Now Obamacare is presented as the standard, and it's a catastrophe if it gets repealed somehow, right? So they're trying to do Obamacare as a litmus test for her. Among other things, Roe v. Wade is one, but Obamacare is one because Obamacare is, there's going to be a Supreme Court vote involving our case involving Obamacare shortly after the election. So they're really worried about her rulings around Obamacare. And the way that this is framed, and this is how you know what side mainstream media is on, if you had any doubt. They're always on the side of bigger government, right? So it's presented as, so let's keep in mind, Obamacare's new. Most of us grew up most of our lives without Obamacare. It's a new thing. It's new. They're presenting it as like, oh my God, if Obamacare goes away, it will be a catastrophe. You're killing people. And they pull out sob stories. Little Connor is blah, 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 blah. It's very sad. But if you just want to kill him, right? Okay. Like you want to take his healthcare away. Blah, 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 blah. Right? So this is the cycle. They find a sob story because nothing's perfect in the world, right? There is no perfect system. So they find someone who's suffering. And instead of doing what a moral person would do, which is go around and voluntarily ask people to contribute to help the suffering person or contribute their own time, right? Like do something, convincing people that we should help this person because they're suffering. Instead of that,
put your money where your mouth is.
Right. Instead of that, what they do is they parade the suffering person around in front of the media, and they act like the cause isn't even questioned. The cause is always assumed to be some free market thing. And the solution is always assumed to be the government has to do something. Well, we have to, this case will be solved if we just pass the legislation and expansion of power that I want. We just need more of the government to do blah, blah, blah. The government can fix bleh, whatever it is. Always, always. And so then dumb people pull the lever. Yeah, we need more government fixing little Johnny's problem. They pull the lever, and little Johnny's problem may get fixed. But then, like, little Sally and little Timmy and, like, 18 other people pop up because they caused more problems because they expanded the government reach and did more crap. And what do? Are they upset about that? No. Now they just have more sob cases to go back to the American public with and say, like, hey, look at this. Look at Timmy and Sally. Here's some more sob cases. We didn't do enough. We need to do more, blah, blah, blah. And everyone, like an idiot, goes, yeah, I guess the cause is a free market. I guess we need more government. It is this is why I hate democracy. The inanity of this is almost unfathomable to me. And they do things like, especially with Obamacare, they conflate not paying with something with denying it. So it's like, well, the insurance companies don't want to pay for your abortion. But they don't say it that way. They say, they're denying a woman's right to an abortion. No, they're just not writing you a fucking check. That's what they're not doing. They're just not writing you a check. And you want to go buy insurance that will write a check for your abortion? Feel free. Go buy insurance for that. Of course, you can't because insurance is so heavily regulated now that, now I think a lot of insurance might cover it. But if you're interested in how the government made healthcare, like, there's a really good article. I won't read the article, but I'll put it up here so that people will force me to share it in the notes. This is from 2017. It's from the Mises Institute. Yes, the Mises Institute. How government regulations made healthcare so expensive. You can follow this if you're interested in economics. I'm not going to read this, but you can look. We have not had a free market in healthcare for decades. We haven't even had anything close to a free market in healthcare for decades. There's no way that you can possibly blame what's going on with on the free market. We are so intensely regulated. And by the way, it's organizations like the AMA are partly responsible because they want to restrict the supply of doctors. Why? Because they want doctors to make a lot of money, and because their members are doctors. So like this is horribly corrupt, and the US has had its grimy little paws in healthcare for over a century, and yet we're always blaming the free market for every freaking problem. And I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of people not understanding how insurance works. This whole like, how can you have pre-existing conditions? Like, you recognize that forcing people to accept pre-existing conditions will necessarily raise everyone's rates for all eternity, and they will just keep going up. Like, anyone who doesn't understand that is a literal moron. That's what insurance does. You can't not understand that. That's how markets work.
But people don't. They don't understand, and they don't. I didn't understand for a long time. The left appeals to feelings and emotion only. They don't look at consequences of policies.
Okay.
They don't look at things, how things work. And you know, to go back to your point about how they're pretending now like Obamacare is a standard and it's very new. They did the same thing with welfare. They did the same thing with the DREAM Act. DREAM Act was meant to be temporary, and then they were going to find a solution. But no, now it's become, you know, I grew up thinking of, I'll just put myself up there as an example. I thought of things like welfare as, well, yeah, of course we need welfare. It's permanent. We've always had welfare, you know, like we've always had XYZ program. Little kids who are growing up today are probably going to feel that way about Obamacare. Like, yeah, you can't get rid of Obamacare. We've always had Obamacare. Why? It's not enshrined in the Constitution. Yet we come to believe, at least a lot of us on the left, come to believe these things are necessary, that they can't be repealed. You think of them as very hard, solid programs that's built into the fabric of American government.
Well, because now people are relying on it. That's the goal, right? You get people to rely on it, and then there's noticeable pain when it's removed, right?
Right.
So, like, if I wanted to manipulate you, Carrie, right? And I had a bunch of money. Let's say I could print money, for example, right? I could say, Carrie, you don't have to worry about your mortgage. I have a new program where women named Carrie Smith get free mortgage. Do you like that? And you're like, yeah, I'll vote for that. Vote. Great. So now I'm paying your mortgage. Okay. So now someone comes along and they're like, hey, why are we paying Carrie's mortgage? And I point to Carrie and I'm like, well, she's relying on us. Poor Carrie. She's relying on us to pay mortgage because, you know, maybe you quit your job and you started only knitting. I don't know what you did. Like, you're like, I don't have to pay my mortgage anymore. Screw it, right? So, like, now you're relying on me. Now I'm your sugar daddy from a, like, government perspective. Now I'm the sugar daddy. And, oh, by the way, can you just, you know, this other bad guy wants to remove your mortgage payment, Carrie, and I'm all about helping you, aren't I? It's so transparently manipulative and evil. I really don't understand the entire category of people who nod their heads at that and like, that's a great idea. I don't get it.
Well, that was me for a long time.
I don't get it though.
Now I've started questioning a lot of government programs because and trying to figure out what I think about them individually and whether I think they should be permanent or have they run their course, like those kind of things. I never used to think that way. Yeah,
you know, Brett Weinstein said something that I liked. I think I mentioned before, but he said something that, as much as I disagree with him on some things, he made a point about feelings and empathy and the place for feelings and empathy. And his point, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, if you want to come up with an empathetic solution, you have to bar emotion from the analysis. You have to have as rational and objective and non-empathetic analysis as possible. You have to only look at the facts and use reason to do your analysis, right? Because if you let empathy in to your analysis, you get skewed results, and then you're actually not dealing with reality at that point, right? You need the objective approach, and to be objective as possible, because reality is objective. Like, reality doesn't have contradictions. So you really need to understand reality.
it's empathetic to take your emotions out of your analysis.
Right.
It's more empathetic to take your emotions out
Yeah,
of
there
your
you go. That's
analysis.
maybe a
Yeah.
better way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've this is a point that I've tried to make, but maybe failed. I mean, I think true empathy requires doing that. And I've said that for years. Like, true empathy requires not feeling about the thing that you're making a decision about. Like, that's what empathy is, because empathy recognizes, oh, not only do I need to help this person, but I need to help them here in reality. So while I'm trying to figure out what reality is, I need to be objective about my analysis of reality. Otherwise, my model will be skewed, and the thing that I'm going to do to try and help the person is going to be wrong, because it's going to be based on a model that's not correct. And that's just dumb. Empathy requires, actual practiced empathy requires long-term objective analysis of stuff. But that's just not what's done. And they're going to do this healthcare litmus test with Amy Barrett, and they're going to do the Roe v. Wade litmus test, and they're going to do all this other stuff, and you're going to see them catastrophize everything. You're going to see them be like, well, how could we not have Obamacare? Little Johnny's going to die, and you want to take away healthcare of these people during a pandemic, right? They're gonna make all these arguments, and they're gonna
Have you
conflate
ever
not paying with denying, and they're gonna do all that kind of stuff, and it's gonna sicken me over the next week.
have you ever seen this comedian Remy? He's on Reason magazine a lot, and he does a
I
lot of
think so.
parody or videos, like really funny videos. He did one a couple years ago where he's playing a congressman and he's singing this song in Congress, and the song is called "People Will Die," and and it's so unfortunately relevant all the time, because that really is the hyperbolic argument they make for everything. People will die. People will die.
Yep. Yep.
Vote for this or people will die.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and there's never any, just the economics. I think the one of the only things you have to understand about some of the economic experts, um, mainly on the left, but I think there's some on the right who think this. They believe that breaking a window contributes to the economy, right? Because their argument goes, well, once you break the window, now the shop owner, let's say you broke a window in a bakery, the bakery owner's got to go buy a new window. So someone has to make the window. He's got to pay the guy to put the window in. Hey, look at all the jobs that have been created, and look at the economic activity that's happened from breaking a window, which is kind of, we'll say, Keynesian perspective on economic productivity. But at the end of the day, if you hadn't broke the window, you would have all those same resources and not a broken window. So what they don't do is they don't look at the other side of the equation. Let's say the window costs $500 to repair. It's a big window and complicated. Well, the bakery owner had $500 and a shop with a window, and now he has a shop with a window, and he doesn't have $500.
Yeah.
That's not economic improvement. That $500, maybe he was going to go buy a new bread kneading machine or a new oven or whatever. Like, it's not, destruction is not creation of economic prosperity. It's just not. It never is. But this is often how they look at things, especially with respect to the government. Oh, the government's going to pay for blah, blah, blah. Okay, but to do that, you're going to take twice as much out of the economy, out of the pockets of people that were going to do something else with that money. You're going to spend it inefficiently, and you're going to allocate it in a way that maybe people don't want it allocated necessarily. But you're definitely going to be wasteful about it. That money was better sitting back with the people who earned it in the first place. Because even if you do nothing with your money but stick it in the bank, it gets lent out. It produces for the economy. People borrow it. People borrow on it with fractional reserve banking. They borrow 10 times of it, or whatever. People borrow it, and it's used to start businesses and do other things. Even if you just save it, the only way your money's not helping anyone is if you stick it literally in your mattress or whatever. But in a normal system, all that money is producing value. It doesn't need to be taken out, given to bureaucrats, and reallocated in order to create value. But the left always just looks at the one side of the equation. If we spend more money, we'll help these people. Yeah, but where do you get the money? And where you get the money, they get it from two places. They steal it from people or they print it. And when they print it, they're stealing it from your grandkids or your kids. Sorry, I know you don't like financial discussions. I couldn't help it. I couldn't
No,
help it. We'll do some
I
super.
appreciate them, and they help me to. I'm practicing concentrating when people talk about the economy and money.
I know.